This video you just clicked on is probably a related video from a fun little montage of absurd experiences somebody captured or streamed in VRChat.
Oh, that's Pickle Rick.
No, it's
God damn it.
like,
Damn, Tony, you're freaking.
It's-
Yeah, look at
it's
Tony, man. He's got his
black
wagon
Pickle
on his
Rick.
But have you ever looked at it and ruminated about the philosophical implications of virtual reality and what the worlds in VRChat have to do with metaphysics? More specifically, ontology and epistemology? Have you ever thought about how this reality might be not so different from our own? Well, I'm here to talk about some interesting ideas that can surround virtual reality in VRChat. Talking about these philosophical concepts in context with the internet can be extremely difficult because of how little there is about it, and the fact that metaphysics itself is just mental gymnastics. So, if some of this comes off as conjecture or theorizing, be sure to help with the discourse by contributing with a comment. Before I get into various concepts, I need to define what some terms mean. Metaphysics is a division of philosophy that is concerned with the fundamental nature of reality and being that includes ontology, cosmology, and often epistemology. In this video, we will be talking more about ontology and epistemology. Ontology is the branch of metaphysics concerned with the nature of relations and being. Epistemology is the study of what we know and knowledge. When we put on a VR headset or just engage ourselves in the game, our perceptions of reality are switching in subject. Our consciousness has shifted to a virtual world that may be indistinguishable from our own. As bold as a claim as that is, think about it like this. René Descartes coined the term cogito ergo sum, or I think, therefore I am. This means that the mind is a non-physical and non-spatial entity independent from the body. Descartes posits that this is the only real way to confirm our existence in an objective sense. On the other hand, David Hume had a different idea. Our confirmation of our existence is drawn from what we can feel from our senses. So seeing, feeling, smelling, hearing. So in VRChat, do we actually exist ourselves in that world? The simple answer to this question, I think, is yes, but only as an extension of ourselves. We actually don't get to fully experience what it's like to be in a virtual world. If you have a VR headset, you are experiencing the sight and sound of the world around you, but our brains still give it spatial importance. As humans, we know that every time we put on the headset that we're intentionally switching realities, hence why it's called virtual reality. Digital dualism suggests that the on and offline worlds are separate. However, with social media and games like VRChat and Second Life, that is becoming an unpopular position to take. Even if you don't play with a VR headset, you are still engaging with a reality that is interconnected with our own. However, the VR headset seems to bridge the gap in the mind-body problem. We don't get all the senses, but we get enough to fully believe that we are in a different world. However, this brings up another conundrum. Do these objects in the virtual world have intrinsic value? For instance, we can't actually taste the beer at the Great Pug. It's all a simulated experience. However, in-game, we don't see the alcoholic beverage as just a prop. Alright, hello, Pony. You. I have a question for you. Does the alcohol in this virtual reality game have any intrinsic value? Does it have any physical properties or any meaning to you?
It represents the alcohol I don't have now to smother the crippling depression within inside me. Fuck you, I need this.
Socially, we acknowledge it as a beer and roleplay as either the bartender or the customer, forming a social interaction around it. In the sense of social reality, the beer is ontologically subjective. Its physical form is simulated. However, it's epistemologically objective. We know of this object in our non-virtual world, but it pretty much works under the same rules. Sure, you can't actually consume the alcohol inside the beer, but you can still acknowledge it from its real-life counterpart. It's the same thing as money. We attribute traits to a physical piece of paper and add our own specific value to it. Ironically enough, money itself is just as virtual today as the alcohol at the Great Pug. Contemporary philosopher John Searle talks about this metaphysical issue in his book called The Construction of Social Reality, in which he talks about how our perception of reality can be categorized by objectivity and subjectivity in relation to ontology and epistemology. I'm going to quote a post called The Reality of Virtual Reality, a philosophical analysis where author John Danaher goes over Searle's ideas in relation to virtual reality. For further context, he is also analyzing a piece done by another contemporary technological philosopher, Philip Bray of Twente University. The piece reads, Searle argues that many social kinds share these twin properties of ontological subjectivity and epistemic objectivity. Examples include marriages, property, legal rights, and duty generally, corporations, political offices, and so on. He calls these institutional facts. These are social kinds that come into existence through the collective agreement upon a constitutive rule. The constitutive rule to form X counts as Y in context C. In the case of money, the constitutive rule might read something like, precious metal coins with features A, B, and C count as money for the purposes of purchasing goods and services. Searle doesn't think that we explicitly formulate constitutive rules for all social objects and events. Some constitutive rules are implicit in how we behave and act. Others are more explicit. What's interesting about Searle's theory is that it means that much of our everyday social reality is, in a sense, already virtual in nature. It doesn't depend on any physical, real-world properties or characteristics for its existence. Money, marriages, property, rights, duties, political offices, and the like do not exist out there in the physical world. They exist in our collective minds. They are fictional projections of our minds over the physical reality we inhabit. In principle, we can project the same social reality over anything, including the representations and simulations that exist within virtual reality. Thus, according to Bray, we can ontologically recreate things like money, marriage, rights, duties, political offices, and so forth in virtual worlds. All it takes is some collective imagination and will. As humans, we construct the social ideas around physical objects. Like I mentioned before, social media also fuels this theory and constantly evolves how we communicate, but also acts as its own concurrent reality. Beer at the Great Pug has intrinsic value because it really isn't a means to an end. It has value in and of itself as a social construct within VRChat. Its physical properties are questionable to us, but it still can hold just as much of value. With the emergence of virtual reality and its functionality, it's not hard to think that the virtual world can become just another world, in a different sense. Technology has really changed our lives and the way we think, even making new philosophical theories come out. And as we know it, science fiction is slowly becoming reality. Before we know it, there may be total virtual integration with our reality. There's an anime called Fractal that explores this concept pretty well. Basically, most of humanity has resorted to being represented by an avatar, referred to as doppels, that can roam the real world and interact with objects. I highly recommend it, and it's super underrated. I also recommend reading some of the text I have researched from below in the description if you're interested in the philosophical aspects of virtual reality. Most of this video is just ruminating about the philosophical aspects of virtual reality, but I used VRChat as a framing device. I hope you guys learned something, and if you want me to do more videos like this, leave a comment and like. Oh my god. Why? 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 Oh. Oh. Hello, everyone.
Give me that robot man over there.
Hi.
Tell him I need him.
Cover of Kendrick Lamar is humble.
He needs a
You are kind of creepy.
I'm sorry.
Get the robot.
Mr.
I'll
Robot.
move a few seats down.
Okay. Yeah, much better. Your face is so bad.
Your jaw is like
You're so
stuck in the
happy.
table.
So you
Amazing.
you're getting footage?
Yeah, I'm getting footage for the... I'm doing a video about the metaphysics of VRChat. I'm just getting footage and screenshots for the thumbnail. I'm recording some of this, so I'm just gonna like slide this in here as an homage to this. Just so you know. You've made it into a Blue Shades video, congratulations. You did it. I'm gonna get hit by a train now. I have no limbs that are functional. Can I ask you a question?
Don't probe me. I don't like being probed.
What is it, my man?
Alright, so it's kind of a philosophical question about the alcohol you're trying to consume. Would you say that the alcohol in this game specifically has intrinsic value? Does it have social value, despite not having any physical properties?
Yeah. Maybe in the future, maybe.
Maybe. Right.
That's what I wanted to say, actually. In the future, maybe. You know?
Maybe. Maybe we'll be able to get fucking
The only thing we can do now is wait.
Alright, thanks. Thanks, drunk cat
You
guy.
need to watch out for a victim, you know?
No problem.
Jump in the fire.
Why can't I die?
Oh no. Come on, do your bit, get it over with.
Put him on the spot.
Come on, get it over with. Do it. I know you have something specific to say. Or not. Okay.